I'm grateful to be home. Oak Cliff, that's my hood. Uh, Glad to be back any chance that I get. I was not given a script, but I was given a time limit. And I appreciate any time I can speak on a program and be the least churchy person. And when Vanessa is like, she got that covered, so I get to be here. I want to first bring you greetings on behalf of the board, the staff, the leaders of the Children's Defense Fund who are serving America's children across 11 locations where we have teams across the United States of America, but also in those 30 states with partners and volunteers who are advancing freedom schools. None quite so well as Loretta Burns, but everybody working on it. Everybody's working hard on it. I want to thank Dr. Brandy for her leadership here in Texas. We're grateful for this team that's here. We're grateful that they engaged in the process to call forth their leader in partnership with the Advisory Council here. And we're grateful to the volunteers and staff who support her leadership in this place, in this state, where we have team members, East Texas, we got team members in Houston, Austin, here also in Dallas, doing the work of policy change, doing the work of power building, doing the work of direct service to young people in order to advance social change in the context of the vision that we have inherited. I want to know, I will give a few comments, but is Camilla still here? It's Camilla. Camilla, will you stand up? Tomorrow's Camilla's birthday. Happy birthday, Camilla. Camilla is one of our remarkable artists, and one of the first people I had a chance to talk with when I came in tonight. And it was a blessing to me to be able to talk with Camilla and to hear from you, Jabrin. Jabrin, for the record, this is Celebration of Joy season. We have these celebrations in all of our offices across the U.S. Where we have state offices. And Jabrin, you're the first brother to receive this award. So we're writing your name down. I was compelled by my conversation with Camilla because of the theme of tonight, Through Their Eyes. As Camilla was explaining to me the painting that she had sitting there beside a beautiful sketch, but it was the painting that captured me, and I asked her about her art, and I asked, I'm old enough to be that guy who asks all the questions of the teenagers that you come into contact with. Age, school, how long you been doing this, what you want to do with it. I didn't ever think I was going to be that guy. Now I'm that guy. Camilla was gracious and generous with me, sharing of her time and of herself and of her inspiration, talking about the gift that she received from her mother, the pink sketch pad that she began sketching on that she still has to this day. She talked about her mother's artistic gifts, and she talked about how the piece and the painting that she shared told the stories that she had heard from her parents about their experiences. But in the painting, I also saw a hope that was not about the past, but about the future. And the more she talked to me, I recognized as I shared with her, and Dr. Brandy heard me say this, there's something about this. I hear you talking about those parents, your parents, but in the painting, I recognize those eyes. I said, those eyes look familiar to me, Camilla. And she said, well, after a while, you're with yourself so much, you see yourself so much, you begin to paint yourself. Those were Camilla's eyes, telling the story of her parents and what she knew of their journey, including likely some struggles that they did not tell her about and kept them to themselves. You know what we do. We show the children the things that will keep them inspired, and we try to keep the tough things away from them. She, through her eyes, she showed a future in the story, in the image. You could see a story of struggle and challenge in the images around her, but you could also see images of life and laughter from stuffed animals lying there right at her right, but at the bottom left of the painting, but you were drawn back into the image of the eyes. Through Camilla's eyes, I got a sense of two generations of journey one of struggle, one of aspiration, and I wondered what would come next. I wonder what would come next because I came here from Washington, D.C. early this morning. Let church say early. I was on 6:05 flight. And that was 6:05 Eastern time. So by the time my mom be rolling over, my mom gets up early. I came here from a place where they're wrestling with whether it makes sense to take $200 billion worth of food away from children. I came here from a place that even before the shutdown on October 1st was set to be the date that we took $8 billion out of healthcare in America in a three-pronged move to take $24 billion from DISH funding, which goes to hospitals that provide disproportionate care for people who are vulnerable and do not have coverage. I came here from a place where people are arguing over whether it makes sense to invest in an educational system that was not yet equipped or effectively resourced to take care of our children in the first place. I came here from a place where people want to take credit for doing the least and the last and just enough and not enough to take care of our children. I came here from a place where people are not thinking about the fact that the $1 trillion that they took out of Medicaid and CHIP impacts a half of all America's children. 40% of all America's children. A half of the ones in East Texas. Gilman. I used to go for family reunions. Big Sandy, which was the big town we had to get to before we got to Gilman, to where we could get to the Harambe Pavilion, and before we got to that church where we'd go to the back to clean off the graveyards because that's where our ancestors were. Half of children in rural America rely on the Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program. They got stripped away. But conveniently, most of those things won't kick in until after we elect the next set of Congress people. I came here from that place, and I came here out of a conversation I had yesterday in Baltimore with leaders from a network of organizations called the Partnership for America's Children. The partnership represents multi-issue children's advocacy organizations in 39 of 50 states across the country, and they asked me to reflect on what I thought. They had a really long title. Preachers know you're not supposed to have a title more than five words, but they had a long title, Ms. V. It was Transformational Leadership for a New Frontier in Child Advocacy. That was a positive way of saying all hell is breaking loose, what we're gonna do. And they asked me what to do, and I thought about what got me into this work, Ms. Loretta. I was introduced to one Marion Wright Edelman, our founder and president emerita of Children's Defense Fund, by Dr. C.T. Vivian, that leader of the civil rights movement that many call a lieutenant of Martin Luther King Jr., know him from being in the SNCC struggle, establishing the Nashville, Tennessee Southern Christian movement. But King, although they call him King's lieutenant, King said he's the greatest preacher that ever lived. Yeah. He came early in my career. I came to meet him the very first time, actually, in the midst of an uprising when an 18-year-old was killed outside of my community in St. Louis and Ferguson, Missouri. He came to check on us. He asked interesting questions about what was happening in the protest movement. He asked, what are the young people singing? Because he said, Jabron, he said, when the music stops, the movement stops. Yeah. He asked what the young people were doing. And then I saw him again when I brought a group of young people to Washington, D.C. to talk to clergy about what was happening on the ground. And when I brought him there, he introduced me to Marion Wright Edelman because she was at the same convening. But what I thought about when I was standing before that group of child advocates in Baltimore yesterday was a speech that he gave before I ever met him 22 years ago when he came to my community in Alton, Illinois, when I was the president of the Madison County Urban League, or before I should have been a president of anything in my late 20s. He gave a talk, Reverend Gerarda, he gave a talk where he raised the question, what makes a movement? And what I had to say to that group yesterday when I consider what's happening in Washington, D.C. and happening to young people across the country, including in East Texas, including in Oak Cliff, including in Houston, including in Austin, I had to believe that it's movement time. It's movement time for child well-being in America. It's movement time for those of us who care about children and young people. It's movement time for child advocacy in this nation. But we've got to answer Dr. Vivian's question, and I figure I better try because he keeps showing up in my story in this work for some reason. He said, what makes a movement? And he's a Black Baptist preacher, so he liked alliterations, Dr. Posley. He said, message times method times means equals a movement. Yeah. Message times method times means equals a movement. I'm almost out of my time, so I'll say this really quickly. Message. For the civil rights movement, it was this beloved community. What King talked about is that multi-ethnic, multiracial community of peace and justice where love is the governing ethic. And we need a message for our movement. And you have been given some tonight, that we have the responsibility of unleashing the joy in growing up. That we are building communities so young people grow up with dignity, hope, and joy. You want to throw back? Mayor Wright Edelman said children don't grow up in programs. Right. They grow up in families. They grow up in homes. They grow up in communities. We have to invest in the whole community and the whole family in order to make a way for our children. We need a message that will cut through the clutter and remind people that there's more than $1 trillion here and $200,000 there. It is my child at my house that I care about, and you can't do this to them without going through me. And that message has to reject the individualization that makes children somehow private parental property. Your children are my children. And my children are your charge. We need a message, but we also need a method. The method for the movement that he talked about was nonviolent direct action, which is still very helpful today. It is still helpful for us to raise our voices. We must engage in policy advocacy, but this is a time when young people are being shot by ICE or taken out of their homes in the middle of the night in Chicago with no clothes on. Then our methods must be ramped up, and we must engage in methodologies that we have not before. We must not find ourselves comfortable in a moment where our children cannot be comfortable even in their beds and their sleep. Now, our methods must be multifaceted, and we have to gauge across. Yes, we're going to do some policy advocacy. Yes, we're going to have some freedom schools, and in freedom schools, Ms. Burns knows we're not just teaching them to read. That's right. We're teaching them that they can make a difference in themselves, and in their homes, and in their communities, and in their states, and in the nation, and in the world. And that method of investing in young people's dignity is one that will manifest in our own joy. Dr. Vivian said we need a message and we need a method, but we also need means. Let the church say means. Means are the resources for our work. King and Vivian found the means, as Mrs. Edelman found the means for this work through the infrastructure of America's Black church, the most prophetic institution and expression America has ever known. There they found an organizing structure and a full base of people who would activate around this work for racial justice and for child well-being. The question is, where are our means today? Our dear friend Alicia Garza wrote in her book, The Purpose of Power, one of those founders of the Movement for Black Lives. She said, no, if there is no base, there is no movement. Right. Children are our constituency. My question here in Dallas, in my hometown, is where is the base? Base is defined by the people who will volunteer and give themselves to the work outside of their daily work. The base is the people who care enough to give of themselves and sacrifice and service for children in a community because they feel called to the work. The base are the people who give time, treasure, and even a little bit of their talent in order to make the work work. The challenge is we keep being sent to the capitals in Austin and in Washington, D.C., saying that we speak up for the children, but the children are not behind us, they in school. Right. And so we must be able to answer the most fundamental and basic question that Mike Jones, Mike Jones, one of my political mentors in St. Louis, Missouri, would always ask me. He came up in the student movement. He said, you got to be able to always answer the question, who sent you? With authenticity. Because when people see you walking and there's nobody behind you, you're no longer a leader. You're just taking a stroll. I want to be able to come back to Oak Cliff, North Dallas, Pleasant Grove, Houston, where they talk about me for how I say her and there. When I asked Dr. Brandy, who sent you? She can talk about a room full of people, some who I may even find familiar from this room. When they asked Trudy in Austin, who sent you? She can speak of those who have invested in the work in CDF Texas with their time, their talent, and their resources. And she can say, we have this many donors, we registered this many voters, this many people came to our listening session, this many people came to our celebration of joy. We have people at our back, and you should show up to our meetings. You should give us an audience, because there are thousands of citizens of the state of Texas who are sick of it. They believe the expansion of God's healing touch ought to extend to even the children. This wasn't a talk I was supposed to give. I was going to give this real good talk about how we need a children's movement. And I realized I was in Texas, because this is where I'm from, and I realized there's already a children's movement in Texas. 42% of people in Texas, according to Pew Research from 2014 to 2021, 42% of the people in Texas say, Pastor, they say they go to church every week. In Dallas-Fort Worth area, is 63% of people identify as Christian. I was a pastor for 10 years. I know that both of those numbers are inflated, but it's still a lot. I say we need a movement. I say we need a children's movement. But when that many people call on the Christ, we already have one. We just don't know it. We pull from the same book that in the Psalm said, children are a gift of the Lord. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. And think we not a children's movement. We flip over to Isaiah 11 and talk about a leopard laying down with a lamb and a little child leading them as a picture of a peaceable future, and we think we not a children's movement. We say we love Jesus the Christ, and we don't pay attention to him saying, suffer the little children to come unto me and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. And if you cannot enter as a little child, then you cannot come in. All these Christians in the state of Texas who don't believe children deserve healing and access by health care, and refuse to see it through Camilla's eyes. We need a message, but I think we got some choices on some pretty good ones. We need a method. Nonviolent direct action is still working, and we've got methods that we can engage and make us comfortable, but we also need means, which means we need you. We need you in this work as advocates, as volunteers, as contributors and supporters. We need you to click on that QR code. Yes. Make the resources for this work possible. I said last year, I really am going to my seat. She told me I had to stand right here because we were recording, but I'm actually start going to my seat so y'all believe me. We said last year at the meeting in Washington, D.C., that we needed to raise $25 million to make sense of this movement and make it make sense to other people. If we did that this year, it'd be the most we ever raised at CDF. Looks like we'll get there. But it's not proportionally appropriate and allocated. We'll spend about $2 million in resources here in the state of Texas. The problem is 1 in every 10 children in America is born in the state of Texas. That means the math ain't happening. I grew up in Oak Cliff, but I went to school in North Dallas. I spent summers on the DART bus from Oak Cliff to Highland Park with what my mother once called the most educated domestic in the state of Texas. My grandmother, Laureen Turner, with her degree from Jarvis Christian College.
All right, all right.
Cleaning the homes of white people in Highland Park. I saw the resources in this state. I saw the resources in this community, and I heard people say they love children. But the math ain't math. The means for our movement are here. And the children who need them are here. The question is, will we show up?
Go ahead.